October 27 was a special day for us at Storyboard 18. After months of preparation, we kicked off the first ever edition of the Visionaries, a marquee recognition program for the leading lights of the brand world and the brightest marketing minds in the country. Marketers from across sectors, companies and generations came together to be a part of the first chapter of the Visionaries program held at the Oberoi in Gurgaon. It was an evening to remember. The air was thick with excitement and a strong sense of camaraderie as the crowd of industry stalwarts gathered to enjoy each other's company, watch their peers get felicitated, and learn more about charting a bright future for the industry. The program opened with a powerful speech by Suresh Narayanan, Chairman and Managing Director of Nestle India, who addressed the large gathering of CEOs and CMOs on the importance of purposeful leadership. It was followed by a stimulating panel discussion on the CEO-CMO partnership and how it can power growth. We were joined by a stellar panel of guests. We had Kulmeet Bawa, President and MD of SAP India, Aseem Kaushik, MD L'Oreal India, Prativa Mohapatra, VP and MD Adobe India, Sukhleen Aneja, CEO at Good Brands at Good Glam Group, Madhav Sheth, CEO H-Tech, and Devendra Chawla, CEO of Green Cell Mobility. Take a look at the key highlights from the dialogue that left the marketers in the room and their CEOs with a lot of food for thought. Thank you so much for joining us today for this intriguing panel discussion on CEOs and CMOs, partners in growth. Let me just start off with a very simple question, but perhaps in its simplicity lies the challenge. I'm just going to go to all of you, each of you, and ask you in one word to tell me what the CMO or your marketing leadership's role means to you. Madhav, I'll come to you first. One word.
Trust.
Critical.
Prativa?
Customer experience.
Okay.
Consumer first.
Aseem?
Revolution.
Revolution.
Partnership.
Lovely. So that says a lot, I think, here, and it is a relationship that, of course, is transforming. But Kulmeet, let me just come to you first and tell me, what are your expectations of your CMO?
Expectations, number one, of course, would be demand creation, demand generation, which is something that translates into a real, robust pipeline for us, which in the near term or a little longer term can translate into business. And along with that, what's extremely important to me, Dilshad, when I interact with Rahul is how do we build creativity even in building demand, generating demand and generating pipeline. And I have to say this, some absolutely phenomenal creative ideas come out from Rahul. So I'm not surprised that he's one of your winners here. And I remember this one where he created something called, what was it, Rahul? It was the Transformation Express, which was a mobile, immersive experience of the latest and greatest technology that he took to 25 cities and 7,500 brands. So number one is demand gen. Number two would be very clearly, customer experience, like Pratibha said, is front and center at every single touch point that somebody interacts online, offline. And of course, I can come up with examples. And lastly is the holding the brand image for us and also translating it to the local market, local environment. So keep what SAP means and then have it rooted into what India demands from a nation perspective. So those would be the expectations.
Absolutely. And it's lovely to see that you are communicating as much as you do with him. But Aseem, let me come to you and ask you, what are the key qualities of a CMO today, especially in such complex times, right? It's not the easiest job in the world, often marginalized. But tell me, how has it changed and what are the key qualities that you see?
Yes, so we have to start with realizing how the world is changing for us, for all of us. And of course, the world is now more and more connected. We all know it. We are all digitally connected. The entire planet today is probably listening to the same news, and, driven through technology, as you say, news with tech, news tech. And it's also the question of, Once you get this going and you understand the context you're in, and it's rapidly evolving as well, right? So then digital becomes an eminent part of what you do today in marketing. And when you're a CMO, and specifically for L'Oreal, and we are a very old, 100-year-old company, which is purely doing only beauty, right? And almost 8-9 years ago, L'Oreal realized that technology becomes very, very imperative if we have to continue to grow. So we rechristened ourselves as not just a beauty company, but as a beauty tech company. And along with that came, and because we are all about brands, and it's the first thing which we do, and we've been doing that for decades now, and now for 3 decades in India. The CMO's role changes, dramatically with that. So the CMO for L'Oreal in India, Saloni, who works for us, is actually a CDMO. She is the Chief Digital and Marketing Officer. So it inherently then becomes part of what you do on a regular level, when you're looking at consumers, when you're looking at building your brands, when you're looking at, eventually creating demand, as we say, and a profitable business in the end. So digital becomes a very, very core part of now a CMO's responsibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. And while, of course, we're talking about the qualities, there's also been a lot of pain points. It's not traditionally considered such a strong partnership. Prativa, I'm going to ask you about quickly, if you could just tell us what are the pain points? Is there a little bit of perhaps murkiness with expectations again when it comes to the CEO and the CMO relationship, the partnership? How do you forge that, get past those pain points?
I think not pain points, it's the expectation which is changing, right? I guess as we heard, the traditional ways of marketing don't work. Are you on digital? The traditional skill strengths don't work. Are you there? So it's the evolution of the role of marketing, and hence the expectations between the CEO and CMO. For that matter, CEO and every CXO Absolutely. Is changing rapidly. So the conflict comes when there is a expectation mismatch. So clearly laying out the expectation, which is, hey, you are my CMO, what do I expect from you? Number one, you have to be my speed dial for anything customer-centric. If I call you up and ask, tell me why is this customer segment behaving this way? Or why is this customer segment not behaving this way? So the CMO should know that the CEO expects him or her to be the speed dial for everything customer-centric.
And that's on your speed dial.
Absolutely. Yeah. Second, of course, you are the brand custodian, so something's not going well with our brand, and I will call you up and ask you, hey, what happened? What happened to this pitch? Was it even relevant? So you are my custodian of brand. And last but not least is, in the new world order, we expect the CMOs to own some clear business outcomes, right? It's no longer fuzzy-duzzy. It is pipeline, and pipeline which converts, right? It's not that pipeline is just gushing, but no water is trickling out. So pipeline which delivers, and participation in growth. Today, almost all the CMOs, especially who are in B2B, there is an expectation, it's not net new, but existing customers. How do you increase the lifetime value with existing customers? So these are the 3 expectations which I would clearly lay out. And if that's clear, there'll be no conflict. It'll be a damn good job. And that's why many of the CMOs are becoming CEOs as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That tribe keeps growing. But okay, let me just flip it now. Madhav, there are expectations, of course, of CMOs, but there are also, it's the other way too, right? Expectations of CEOs. It's a two-sided relationship. How does it work for you?
I was going through a study where it was very clearly mentioned that only 30% of the CEOs trust their CMOs.
I have seen that study.
30%? Only 30%. Yeah. Which means that 70% of the people or 70% of the CEOs don't trust their CMOs. The reason is only because it's more about the marketing jargons, what the CMOs speak. And I believe the CEOs want their probably CMOs to be involved with the business discussions, part of their strategies, and make sure that probably they understand the ROI language. they also have to safeguard their CFOs as well. So probably I think, to answer your question, it is extremely important that CEO gives them a passage to a CMO to make sure that probably they are part of all the strategies. They understand what is the business vision so they can drive the value to the customer. The most important thing is the CMO has to drive the value to the customer. It's not just about communicating to the customer, it's about the company's values which have been downloaded to the customer, and that is extremely important.
Absolutely, and a very solid understanding of P&L, right? So that's critical. Let me come to you, Sukhleen, and if you could just perhaps, pick up from where Madhav left off, given that you've, of course, also held, the CMO position. What can you sort of perhaps share with us from your movement from a CMO to CEO and running, of course, a homegrown company, fairly new in the game?
That's very true. I think, all of us today in the room would say without a doubt that the very reason why we're here is because we're bearing the fruit of the brands that we've built. And those brands were built, the legacy was built for over 100 years. Like, there's Indian Airlines in the room that we're talking of, Nestle, Unilever. The very fact that you speak about these brands is because the legacy outshines year after year. And it's the brands that have been built with immense amount of consistency. So today, I think every single CMO can never forget that irrespective of the world moving to digital or still working with a traditional first approach, basic fundamental human needs have not shifted, right? That basic laws of the Maslow's laws of hierarchy have not shifted. What a product makes you feel, how a brand makes you feel about yourself, that basic human truth hasn't shifted. I think in a lot of times, and I see this as a shift when I move from, say, if I may say, traditional companies to, say, new age companies. See, there's an obsession for ROAS. There's an obsession for here and now. But that obsession should never allow us to cloud our judgment towards what we need to build for tomorrow. Because there is a fine balance of short-term sales, which are very, very important today, and balancing that with the impact or the long-term equity of your brands tomorrow. So sometimes what seems easy today hurts us in the long term. So I think finding that balance, and if both CMOs and CEOs are in sync on the business and the brands they want to build, and the fundamental reason why your brand exists. If today your brand has a mission towards a purpose, and that purpose fundamentally then has to drive everything that you do. And then if that mission is in sync, I don't think the two functions will ever have contraring objectives. They're fundamentally trying to do the same thing.
Drive growth and build brands, enduring brands. Devendra, I have to come to you next. I also want to sort of get your quick comment on what Madhav said about marketers and jargon.
Yeah, and I'll first comment on what Madhav said about that study where 70% CEOs don't trust their CMOs. I think more than the CMOs, it speaks about the CEO. I think they have trust issues. To not trust your own marketing person, 70, that's quite news. See, I'll add to what is said. You see, we come from an era we were always told in marketing when we were younger that marketing is effective, we don't know which half, remember? And then came digital, and then came performance marketing, and somebody said, oh, we can measure it, like what you're spending and what you're getting. And that's fantastic in the age of digital, and you can't take away from it, like we're going to live in that world. But the problem is we've made marketing very transactional, right? And this whole thing of customer acquisition cost and the budgets which comes with it, I think has given a very myopic view to what marketing has become today, which is sort of sad. Because when an innovation or a product has been built, apparently now marketing comes after it, right? Innovation is made and you're going to market it. To my mind, I think marketing comes much before it. Are you ready for the innovation? Is the organization ready for the innovation? I think shared vision and values, if the CMO and CEOs don't share, I think God bless that company. Because you have a different view of the customer then. The whole customer journey, the whole understanding. And then it all comes down, it is reduced to the product and all these budgets and customer acquisition. So marketing has to move on from customer acquisition and customer retention and all these jargons which we all use. I think it's all about the purpose, why is the company there? And understand what are the pain points or what motivates the consumer and what is the product market fit. I think you have to go one step behind. I think we are missing a little bit of that, and too much of these jargons have come in.
Yeah, purpose has also been jargonized over the past decade, of course. Suresh, of course, spoke about purpose.
And I'll just add to it, since I spoke on digital. Thanks for converting, as Suresh said, all of us into billboards. I have like pathetic numbers of followers on Instagram, but a good number on LinkedIn. I always thought, how will I be an influencer? Now I can.
Oh, well, it's a bit of a souvenir also from us. But
Personally, I've not seen that earlier. I've never worn a name tag which goes around, so it's fantastic.
And now
It's innovative as I would have expected from a marketer audience.
And since I come from a mobility company, which is EVs, I was quite amused because I said, if your name tag and your name is running on a battery, very soon the world will run on a battery.
Fantastic.
all charged up, Kulmeet.
Yes.
All charged up.
Always.
Tell me. So give us sort of maybe your final word on forging this relationship. I mean, CEOs and CMOs, yes.
So look, I don't know why we are beleaguering it, and I would rather get a Rahul Singh to stand up, and I see a lot of familiar faces.
Rahul, do you have a question?
Yes. So Rahul, it's what Mr. Narayanan said. It starts with trust and transparency.
Absolutely.
Period. So it's not a one-way street. It's definitely a two-way street. So he's the expert at what he does. That's it. So our CMO globally is one of the most key members of the executive board for SAP. And it's not just brand, it's not just customer experience. She's got one of the biggest voices as far as the go-to-market worldwide is concerned. And if I must say, today from an SAP perspective, we've transitioned into a cloud-first, true blue cloud company. And that recognition wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for our marketing organization, because the brand positioning across channels, across geography, I mean, it's a mindset shift, right? Moving in from an on-prem. So to that, I think it's a two-way street. It's not rocket science. If you can keep, remember the 4 points that Suresh said, it becomes super easy. And I'm super proud of our marketing.
We tend to complicate matters, perhaps, yeah.
Added to that, to how important it is, just one fact. Our global CEO, Shantanu Narayan, right now is double-hatting as our global CMO.
Wow.
So that's how important it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Devendra, would you like to add something to that? Aseem, CMOs moving into the CEO role also, like Sukhleen mentioned, we're seeing that. Aseem, any thoughts on that? We've had 2 wonderful movements in that direction at Mercedes, and then, of course, at Mondelez not too long ago with Anil, who moved to Vietnam as MD. So this transition, just give us your final thoughts on, that movement happening.
No, I think we are an FMCG company, unlike a tech company where tech comes first and then marketing the tech comes as one of the things which you need to do. For us, brands become the core pivot of anything which we do. And brands are built through consumer insights, right? And this is where the CMO or the CDMO's role now becomes more and more important for us. And in L'Oreal, we have this saying which talks about the poet and the peasant. I just want to, between the CMOs and the CEOs, kind of a story. So so if you have to be working for L'Oreal, you have to be both a poet and a peasant. So you have to dream big, you have to be creative, you have to do all the things which you do in marketing, but then you have to become a peasant to get that into action and into reality. So it's not only about, dreaming, it's not only about creativity, it is not only about building brands, it's in the end then a lot of hard work to make that into a reality, which is all the consumer acquisition costs, etc., which is the hard work, because this is where, the rubber hits the road, etc. So for me, once you are on a regular basis accustomed to doing something like that, a transition to the next level of a CMO to a CEO's position becomes relatively much, much easier, because we do the same thing almost on a daily level right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Devendra, I'll let you have sort of the last word on this, just your closing remarks on forging this new power partnership.
So I'll borrow from Peter Drucker on this one. I think he said, and it's so relevant, that the whole reason for an organization's existence is innovation and understanding the customer. I think as long as you keep doing that, you're going to win. And only if you lead the market, you can own the market. I think that is the role of marketing. And the way, like Suresh said, agility, I mean, the way consumers are changing so fast, the needs, I think it's not so simple, as Aseem said, to actually catch up. And it is a different ballgame to actually stay ahead of it, which is understanding consumer behavior. So I think more power to marketing as more and more channels, digital and all come. I think it's going to get more complex. And to have CMO, I don't think any less of CMO is actually as good as a CEO. It can, like, your company depends on it. But to have them on the corner room, I think more power to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Brave new world, exciting new world, and new partnerships, CEOs, CMOs, CFOs. Of course, this merits a longer discussion. We didn't even get into budgets, talk about budgets. But thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us this evening and celebrating this glorious room full of marketers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dilshad.
Thank you, Dilshad.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. We kicked off the first edition of the Visionaries program with a huge bang. Catch all the detailed coverage on Storyboard18.com, but also watch the Visionary space for the next chapter and an unmatched view into the future.